let's start with the economic news today. The latest GDP figures show Australia's economy grew 0.5% in the final 3 months of 2022. Anna, this is good news, but it's still going to be a very tough year ahead. I mean, it's good news as well that Jim Chalmers has said we are still expecting a tough year, but inflation has eased slightly. Anna Caldwell?
Yeah. Good afternoon, Shari. That's right. There are some welcome signs in that data. One thing that does stand out, though, of course, is the savings ratio of households being down. You know, they're now down to pre-COVID levels, which is pretty significant. And I think, you know, while there is good indications going forward, I think that is a big warning sign about the pain that households are still feeling. That really stuck out to me in the data today.
Andrew Charlton, I want to bring you in now. There's been obviously this debate about superannuation for a week and a half now. The Treasurer this morning, in a conversation with Sunrise host David Koch, raised the prospect of capital gains tax. He didn't completely rule it out for future governments. The PM, as you know, then came and said, we're not touching capital gains tax. Is the Treasurer preparing, as Peter Van Onselen writes in a piece on the Australian website today, is the Treasurer preparing for a future government where he might be the Prime Minister?
No, I think what the Treasurer has done by releasing information on how much capital gains tax exemptions cost the Australian government is just be more transparent with the Australian people. And that's been a hallmark of the Treasurer's approach, is to be fair dinkum with people, to give them more information, to explain the economic context that we're in, and frankly to level with people. And he's today ruled out any changes to capital gains tax on the family home, and so has the Prime Minister, and people should take comfort from that.
What about tensions between the pair? This is something, again, that Peter Van Onselen wrote in his piece today, and it would have been a tough 30 minutes between that interview on Sunrise and when Albanese went on the ABC to water down the issue of exemptions on capital gains tax for the family home.
Look, I saw the transcript of that interview. I don't think the Treasurer was trying to raise the prospect of future changes to capital gains tax. I think he was doing what he has done consistently throughout his time as Treasurer, which is be frank with the Australian people, give them the information that they need to understand what's going on in the economy, make their own decisions. And he was very quick once it was raised that there might have been some ambiguity, to be clear that there in fact is no ambiguity.
Anna, I want to get your take on superannuation changes that was announced by the Labor government yesterday, because it does only affect 80,000 people who have more than $3 million in their super accounts. So this really is only a doubling of tax for the very rich. Do you think this is fair enough, or do you think it's an issue that the broader public care about?
Shari, I do think it's an issue very much that the broader public care about. I take your point that this does, at this point, target the very rich. But I thought Andrew Charlton's summary there of the events of this morning were very gentle and a very kind analysis of what occurred. I think Jim Chalmers unintentionally, sure, but fundamentally created a whole bunch of uncertainty and concern amongst the Australian people with those comments. And yes, Anthony Albanese was forced to come out very quickly within half an hour to correct the record. I think the Australian public is deeply engaged in this conversation. It is correct that the changes at this point do just affect a very, small percentage of the public, but the question mark remains, and those comments this morning all they did was reinforce that question mark around where this will go and how far it will go. And I think they're very valid questions from the Australian people.
Andrew Charlton, what do you think? Is this just the start, which is what people are concerned about? Is this just the start of tampering with superannuation? Is it, changing the tax concessions for the very rich now, but there might be other changes down the track that people need to worry about? And do you think there should be more changes to super?
No, I think this was a modest and sensible change that most Australians would agree with. It doesn't affect 99 out of 100 people who have superannuation. And it makes a small but important change to ensure the sustainability of the superannuation system long into the future. I mean, remember that Labor created the superannuation system, and Labor is always the party that is committed to protecting and safeguarding it. And the Prime Minister has been clear, and the Treasurer has been clear, that there are no more changes to superannuation planned in this term.
Yeah. Although they did say there were going to be no changes to super before the election, and that's a broken promise.
No major changes.
Well, Albanese actually said there would be no changes. Chalmers said no major changes.